Gay Straight Talk Inc. is a Georgia nonprofit corporation dedicated to bridging the great divide between the LGBTQ and straight communities, resulting from misunderstandings, prejudices, stereotypes, and ignorance. By promoting open dialogue, it's our mission to help break down relationship barriers between friends, families, and communities that result from this lack of communication and understanding. We hope you gain the much-needed insight into the reality of all lifestyles so that you can see we are simply just not that different. We are surrounded by signs and labels. They quickly help our brain categorize things and concentrate on what's important to us. They tell us where to go, what to do, and how to identify things we might find unfamiliar. We speed through our day looking for those indicators that give us direction. It really just is an exercise that keeps us from paying attention to the things that don't really matter in our world. But what happens in our brain when we see a label that confuses our brain or doesn't make sense? We actually have to stop and think, what's wrong with this picture? Which one of these things doesn't belong? After all, we've been learning to sort since we were kids, categorize, identify, group. But what really happens to us when we encounter something that doesn't fit? Our brain stops going on autopilot. We are distracted. We have to think and try to make sense of the anomaly, and for crying out loud, our world for a moment is disrupted and we get really uncomfortable. How dare that thing be out of place? How often do you find yourself correcting others or being corrected if what you hear doesn't fit? And doesn't it feel better to know you've set things right? But what happens when your right conflicts with someone else's right? Who's right then? What standard do you use? Who determines the standard? Like, what is art? Van Gogh versus your child's first drawing. And why is it so important to be right? So often, our self-esteem is tied to being right, being in the know. It brings us recognition, respect, and comfort. After all, who wants to be wrong? Who wants to be criticized for being wrong? We as human beings fear being criticized more than anything, criticized and rejected. What we want most is to be accepted, to be loved, and to be in control. Those are our base needs after food, water, shelter, clothing, air, and sex, of course. Power, to be in control, to be on autopilot through our lives, undistracted, undisrupted, comfortable, smooth sailing. Then bam, brick wall, label doesn't fit, world stops, we get sidetracked, and we'll fight. We'll fight hard to get the train back on the tracks full speed. Think about it. That is what is really happening when someone inside or outside your circle says, I'm gay. Bam! Like a freight train hitting that wall, your world, your belief system is disrupted. You're forced to stop and you get angry. We're so busy with our lives, we forget our reality is not the only reality. Not everyone likes chocolate ice cream. Not everyone likes sushi. Not everyone has blue eyes, brown hair, or fair skin, and not everyone is straight. Being similar or the same makes things easier for us, but the reality is, not many things in life are the same or similar. They may have similar characteristics, but even snowflakes are completely unique. My message today is realize that the differences you see are uncomfortable because you have to slow down long enough to sort out the difference. It's a brain thing, nothing more. Secondly, our brains are programmed like a machine to judge everything we see and hear for safety. We're constantly determining our safety. This is heightened if we have had bad experiences that threaten our safety. It's an instinct. But we're human, higher animals. We can learn what is safe and not safe through experience. Like a kid touching a hot stove. Mom can tell you not to touch a hot stove, but if you don't know what hot means, you're going to touch it anyway until you learn what hot means. We're taught fear of the unknown. We are taught to fear what our parents fear. The good news is we can unlearn these things. For example, a parent who fears water can teach a child to fear water or can teach them not to fear. It's a choice. My mother was raised to fear Native Americans. After she learned there was nothing to fear, she taught me to love Native Americans and all people. She chose not to fear, and she chose not to teach me to fear. We know what we've learned. We've learned to identify things and people through language and labels so that we can communicate. We've learned what is right and wrong based on who raised us, what standard they use, and how much fear they instilled in us for any deviation from their truth. But we did not all learn the same thing in the same way from the same people. Just like we have had to learn to talk to other people from other cultures in other parts of the world, we need to learn how to talk to people from other cultures in our own world, in our own neighborhoods. Yes, it's distracting, it takes time, it's uncomfortable for a minute, but it is possible. Don't let the fear you may have grown up with keep you from meeting new people and learning new things. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? How boring. Same food for the rest of your life. Try something new. Talk to somebody you would normally not talk to. See what happens.